On behalf of Scott and Evan, and for Stevie and Ryder and Zake, I just want to welcome you to memorial service for Cashus Michael Walker. I'm Brian Manzo, was the school counselor at Sandpoint when Cash came to and Ryder came to Sandpoint, and then I've been at Eckstein where Cash was this year. It's not a real formal setting that we have here, and it's kind of nice that way. So I want to make sure to invite people as they feel comfortable to be able to come up and say something. Part of the gift to gather together in memory of someone is the chance to be with one another and to help shoulder weight that one person wouldn't be able to do by themselves, and a family needs support for that. It's a lot, and depending on different parts of life, there can be moments of joy, and depending on the part of life, when we lose somebody, there can be little joy, and it doesn't mean there aren't really great stories and memories, and I hope that we could find folks that feel comfortable come up and share, and we'll support you. Don't worry if you're nervous or you're feeling sad, that's fine. We'll stand up here with you. Ms. Davenport and I'll stand up here with you if you would like that. If anybody has anything that they'd like to share, and if anybody wants to start, please just come on up.
You ready? I'm gonna start your stuff going, but I'm gonna be crying, you guys.
That's why we're here.
And I kept working on it all day, and I had to take stuff off because I probably would talk for a long time.
You can talk as long as you want, Stevie.
So where to even begin? Cash, my baby boy, but I called him Cashy Mundo. And to be honest with you, he'd probably kick my ass if I told you his nickname. My son was truly the light of my life. He weighed 8 pounds and 2 ounces. And we all know that was mostly in his head. For anybody new from 5 to 8, he had a big head. But let's be honest, anyone who knew Cashus turned into such a handsome young man. His beautiful, always, his eyes always found their way to make me melt, even if I was upset with him. By his personality, his crazy sense of humor, the unconditional love he had for his friends and family made him shine. My son was an athlete in every sport that was put in him. He killed it in every one. Every time. My son truly had a heart of gold. He loved me every night. I got home from work. He would greet me and put his head on my shoulder and say, "Mom, how was your day?" He was such a little brat. As we all know, he always found a way to make me laugh. As I was scolding him to clean his room or empty the dishes, he would mock me and say, "Ma, you gonna crash out? You crashing out, Ma?" And I would say, "Yeah," but then I would laugh because that's what he did. Did he ever do his chores? Did they ever get done? No. All I want is another day to scream or laugh at him or with him. He was my best friend. He was my talented, sweet boy. I love you, Cashy Mundo. When you left, you took my heart with you until we meet again.
My brother was a smart, funny, sweet, caring person. He was amazing at sports and always gave people things when they needed it. Cash didn't have the best friends, but he had a few good ones. He was always respectful to people and always had manners. Yes, my brother made a few bad decisions in life, but at least he lived his life to the fullest. I don't talk about my brother much anymore, but I will always remember our memories, like talking about where we thought we were going to end up when we were older. Or when we played Fortnite together, even though he constantly said I sucked at it. Or even when we argued, Cash wasn't just my little brother, he was my best friend, my role model, and so much more. I know I'm older than him, but Cash was always a person to look up to. He was so strong and so hard-headed and never let anybody's hate get to him. Me and Cash grew up without a dad, but I always knew it was going to be okay because I knew who was going to walk me down the aisle, and it was going to be Cash. Cash was the only person I could talk to without judging me or having anything hurtful to say, and he's always had my back since we were young.
Stevie and Ryder, it's not easy to be where you're at and to be here and to share that. And thank you for being willing to share that with us. Does anybody have anything that they would like to share? There's a lot of.
You should. Because you were always there.
I haven't known Cash for very long, but when I did meet him, immediately, like, he made me laugh, he made me smile, like, even if I was sad, he found a way to cheer me up, no matter what he was saying, no matter what I was crying about, he would always find a way to make it better, and, I mean, yeah.
I didn't know Cash for long, and the time I did know him, he was a sweet and funny guy. Every time we'd see each other, it would either be at my house or when I first came over to his house, and me, Ryder, and Sophia were all laughing because he was acting weird, and he was like sagging and like trying to like act like he was a different person, but I knew how he was because of my dad. But Cash was a very sweet guy, and it's sad that he went when he did. He didn't deserve it. He was a really, really nice guy, and he was also really respectful from what my brother would say to him about me. He was really respectful, and he had great manners. So overall, Cash was just a great guy from the time I knew him.
Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry for all this, but I don't know Cashus much. But when I did meet him, I met him through a very young, small, big fella of mine named Adrian. We were in school together, and he told me to come to this place and told me to meet this kid named Cashus. And the funny thing is, I moved here, and he came to my window, actually. I didn't even meet him first. He came to my window, and he asked me if I wanted to come out and go to the park and chill. And I got no clue who he was, but I came out, and next thing you know, he's been the one and only brother I've asked for since my younger brother left to his mom's house. So rest in peace, Cashus Walkers. I'm sorry what happened, and I don't know him too much, but rest in peace him.
Sai. I think Sai should really talk because you knew him more than anything.
Come on,
But it's
Sai.
up to you, David.
You want to?
Come on, David. They grew up together. I couldn't stand Sai. Sai was a pain in my ass.
Cash was a brother to me.
Baby, it's okay. I shouldn't put the pressure on you, babe.
It's okay, kiddo. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you can come up later. You know, there's a lot of school people here, and I have a school story, a couple. I have a lot. Not all of them for today.
I'm sure
But-
it was a pain.
No, not for me, but for Miss Manza, it's a different story. And she's out of town, or she would be here. But I will say that I remember when the first time when Cash came to Sandpoint, he wasn't the tallest kid in the class,
But he had a big head.
but he has a big personality. And as he got older, you know, you could see the kids come through the school as they would come up through kindergarten and first grade, and they eventually become fifth graders. By the time Cash got to fifth grade, I was already at X time, but Winslow and 3J, who are here, they could speak to the fifth period class with Miss Manzo that they had. And he gave her a run for the money. And there'd be many days when she would come home in tears and just be like, I don't know what I'm doing wrong, I don't know what's happening. At the same time, our youngest son, Finn, was at school, and he would sometimes, Cash would play basketball with Finn. Finn is much like Cash was in height. He was the biggest kid in his class. So Finn called Cash Big Cash. And he would talk at home about how wonderful Big Cash was to him. They played basketball with Big Cash and him. Big Cash showed him how to shoot, and Big Cash showed him how to dribble. And I would sit at the table while Finn is just singing the praises of Big Cash, and Miss Manzo's thinking about Big Cash in the classroom at the same time, and she was balancing that. And I mentioned a couple months ago, Cash was up in the office and we were talking, and I was like, oh yeah, and we were just talking about some stuff, and he said, I was like, hey, you know, I said, you know, Finn always call you Big Finn, because you're always big to him, and you know, you're so nice to him, and that's just who you were. You're always so nice to him. He was so much smaller than you. He was in Jenny's class. He was in like kindergarten, first grade. He was so little, and you're always so nice to him. And Cash said, yeah, well, you know, I was helping him play basketball. I was like, yeah, but you really helped him. You meant a lot to him there. And then he stopped. He goes, you ever talk to Miss Manzo? And I was like, yeah. Yeah, I do. And he goes, well, if you see her tonight, would you let her know, yeah, I wasn't really the best in her class. And I said, I will. I'll tell her that. I think she'd probably like to hear it. I was like, but I also want you to know that she wouldn't want you to be feeling guilty or bad that, you know, people are the other way at school. I did go home and I told her that night what he said, and she started crying right away. And she was like, God, you know, that's who he is. He's that person. He's that caring person, and he has that in him. And I thought that was a really nice thing to share, and I was glad that we had that, and that she got to hear that from Big Cash. There's a lot of school folks and no pressure, but yeah, you understand.
Yeah, so I remember the last day Cash was at school, and I'll hold that in my memory forever because it was just a good day, and like he was so happy, which like, you know, he's a happy kid generally, but I hadn't seen him quite that smiley in a while. And I said, it was sixth period, and I was like, it's fine, you could just stay in here. Like, I could just tell it was gonna be a good moment. And so he stayed in, and he was helping Amy bring stuff from the car. He was like, so, like, yeah, I'll carry that out, and just so happy. And like, it was a beautiful moment where I was just like, man, like, this is what we've been wanting for so long, because we always miss him when he wasn't there. And every time he'd show up, we would all be like, we're just so happy to see you. Because granted, you know, we wanted him there more than we saw him. And what I loved about him, he was always ready to jump in, you know. Like some kids, they would just have anxiety, like, I don't know if I want to go. But every time, I know Miss Kazala knows, because every time he'd be like, you know, people be like, can you check in with him? You know, he hasn't been here in a while. I'm like, honestly, he just wants to go to class and learn. Like, he actually just wants to learn. He's so smart, and all the teachers, like, honestly, he doesn't really miss a beat if he's there, because he is so freaking smart. And so it was just pretty profound to me, like, that a kid who hadn't been there in so long would want to jump in and just get after it. And like, I think on some level he was just so too smart for his own good. He needed that like action, and he wasn't gonna just have a boring time, which we all know. And I mean, that's something to respect about him. And yeah, one other thing I've been telling a lot of kids is that one of the last times he was in my room, he was sitting on the couch and he's like, man, these kids are just doing too much out here. Like, why are they fighting? Why are they doing all this dumb stuff in the hallways? And I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. Because, maybe in a lot of people's minds, he's doing all this crazy stuff in school. No, he was like going to class or playing basketball, really. That's what he did. And so I've been telling a lot of kids that, like, when they're like, well, catch this, or, so many people loved him and are really grieving his loss. But I said, well, Cash, last time he was here, he said, y'all are doing too much. So maybe just tone it down and like live after that legacy, because that's actually what he was in school, and that's how we knew him when he would show up. And he was very chill and low key, and always a joy to me. It was always a good day when Cash showed up. Actually, we're always so happy to have him there. And I know I see all the staff nodding their head here. So, my heart is broken. It's very, it's been very hard. But I really am thinking of Ryder, and, we care about you, and we're here for you, and we love you. And, we just want the best for you. And I know living, just for all the kids here, like living out his legacy is just living all the dreams in the life that he could totally have, because he was super smart and ready for it. So that's how I tell everyone, like, when someone's gone and you're grieving their loss, like, the best thing you can do is just live the things that they would have wanted in their best selves. So we're here for you, and thank you for everyone being here and sharing their thoughts. And hopefully we have some more people, because I know there's so many more people here that really care for him and have so many positive memories about him. So I'll open up if anyone else would like to come up.
So I'm going to tell you the first time I met Cash and the last time I saw him. First time I was knocking on Stevie's door. I said, what is your name? She told me Stevie. I said, well, what's your son's name? Cash. And she told me Ryder's name. I said, is Cash named after Johnny Cash? And is she named after the Midnight Rider? And are you named after Stevie Nicks? And it was. I knew. Cash was never, ever rude to any adult at Solid Ground. I never saw him be rude. And I remember the water balloon fights that we had, the duels over here. He got you twice really good, I remember that. And the last time I saw him, I could see Cash was on the right road. We had an Uno tournament, and Christopher and Michael and Yuli brought him over, and we had a great time. And I could just tell, he finally was getting on the right trail. And then when I heard 2 days later, I was just like shocked. But, he impressed a lot of people, and it's obvious by all you showing up here today. And I will never forget Cash. And every time I hear Johnny Cash, I think of Cash.
Okay. My name's Amy. I was a tennis coach and family friend to Cash. Yeah, when I think about it, I've been thinking about him a lot, these past weeks, and especially today. He was on my mind, and I was actually thinking I want to share something kind of cute. Like, when I think of him, I just think he was so, like, fun and, like, surprising and full of joy. And trying to coach him tennis, I mean, he was really good at tennis, right? But, like, he was also, like, kind of impish, and, it was like you had to kind of, like, figure out, like, okay, but if you get into But if you kind of got him, if you get buy-in from him, he'll like he'll do all of it, and he'll get all the other kids to do it because he's having so much fun and he's just so into it that like everybody else like wanted to do what he was doing. So I just always think of him. He always was just like he would just really lock in. He would be really great. And then I actually have this one funny story. I can't remember who exactly, Ryder, I'm sure you were there, but like it was during COVID, because we started tennis before COVID, and then it became all these other things during COVID. It would just be a lot of like walking around the park. And with Cash, like he would do things that like you wouldn't think, you kind of set like rules, and like he would do things that like you wouldn't think that you would like tell someone, because it would be like this, you just wouldn't think like, okay, so we're kind of walking, standing around, and I see Stevie. I don't think I've ever even told you this, but that baseball diamond over there, we're like walking, and he's probably 8-9 years old, and I don't know what, I was like looking at one of the other kids, and I look up, and it's like Cash is like, it's kind of tall, like he's like climbed up the chain link fence, and not just him, of course, because other kids are following him, so he climbed up like almost to the top. I mean, then it was to the point where you have to be like, okay, so we're coming back down here. But he like, afterwards, he's like, oh, I'm sorry. Like, once you explained it to him, he was kind and sweet, and he really like never did it again. He was just like, oh, my bad. like, oh, I just won't climb up. I'm like, that is so high. But yeah, and the other thing I remember about him is just how much he loved you, Ryder, and Stevie, and Zake. Like he just, like he loved you so much, and I just hope you can see like that this community is here for you, and we care so much, and I'm so sorry and so sad that he's not here. But thank you.
I'll go. Do you want to come up with me, Wins? No pressure. You can do your own thing if you want. But I'm Winslow's mom. Evan, and Winslow transferred to Sandpoint when he was in 3rd grade. And Cash was her first friend. Cash was Winslow's first friend. And I remember one day Cash came home with Winslow from school, and it was a Friday, and they were just gonna hang out and just hang out for the afternoon. And then it got later, and I asked Cash if he wanted to stay for dinner, and he was like, yeah. And then I was like, after dinner, I was like, do you want to spend the night? And he was like, yeah. And long story short, he didn't leave till Sunday night. He was just hanging with our family for the whole weekend, and I really like fell in love with him because he's just such a lovable guy. And when they went to middle school, I asked about him all the time, and I knew he wasn't in school a lot, and I was always worried about him and asking my kids if he was there and how he was doing, and my kids wouldn't even tell me that he had died when they found out, because they knew that I would be really so upset, which I am. I just felt that Cash really was a special person, and I had a lot of hopes for him in his life, and I'm really sad that he's not here. And I'm also really happy that I knew him. You want to say anything?
Yeah, Cash was like, he was my first friend when I moved to like a new school. So, yeah, I don't want to say much, but yeah, I'll just remember.
My name is Michelle. I'm one of the case managers here at Santos Place. I met Stevie, Ryder, and Cash. Well, actually, Cash was like knee high to a grasshopper back in 2015, just this little fella. And I connected right away with his mom. And then years later, I see her here, and I'm like, oh, wait, I know you. And she's like, yeah, you remember Cash and Ryder? Well, Ryder was very young. My son's a few years older than them and a lot taller than Cash. Cash's name kind of went around the campus quite a bit. And the last encounter I had with him was he was driving by in a car. And I said, wait a minute, is that? Because I couldn't put the two to two together. And I said, I think I've seen that kid Cash, but how did he look over the steering wheel? He's so short. Oh, hey, sorry. So he's talking to me. But I can't say I understand your pain, Stevie, but I can be here for her and support her in any way possible. And that's got to be hard on a parent to lose a child. You have a lot of support. Ryder, you as well. You've come a long way. So proud of you. You know, the road gets rough before it gets better. And just with the prayers and the support, I believe that I can't say it'll get easier, but it would be manageable and acceptance. And that's between you and God. And so my condolences go to you too, Ryder and Stephen. And thank you everybody for coming. My son also went to Eckstein, and if you've been at Eckstein quite a while, you probably know his name. But, yeah, thank you.
So I had Cash for a couple of years, but I always say I had him an extra year because he was in my class so much when I had a Ryder in kindergarten. So I got to know Cash when he was so little, and he always brightened my day. His smile just melted my heart, and I always had a smile or a laugh with him. He always would come by school after he left Sandpoint. No matter where he was, if he saw me, he would stop and always say, hi, Mrs. Clark. And I would ask him to go one more day to school than he was. I didn't know how much he was going. And my last conversation with Cash was about 2 weeks before he passed. And he came into my classroom. And it was so wonderful seeing him. It will be forever treasured in my heart. And Ryder, you and Cash will always be this picture of love of for each other in my heart too. Always together and always so sweet. And Stevie, we go back. And I'm here if you ever need anything. Okay.
My name is Megan, and the first year I was ever at Sandpoint, I taught a 2-3 split, and so I taught all the second graders math, and Cash was in my class. And I just think so positively of him when I remember him. He was just such a joy and so full of energy, and I loved every day that he came in. He's so intelligent and so smart and good at everything that he set his mind out to do. And if I wasn't ready with a challenge for him, something to do instead of the regular assignment or something after, he was going to be a lot that day. So I was always on my game with something challenging for him to do and something that he found interesting. And my son was very small when Cash was in my class. And Cash loved sports and math. And he's so good at math.
He did my taxes. Before he passed away,
surprise
that
me.
kid did my taxes.
My son is now 9, but I remember meeting Cash and having him all year and just wanting my son to be like Cash. I just felt that when Callan grew up, he was going to be like Cash and be great at sports and a great mathematician and this wonderful charismatic kid and nice to everybody. And meet friends everywhere he went, and if Kellen could just grow up to be like Cash, I would be all right in the world. So he just lives right here with me all the time, and I'm so sorry, Stevie. And we love your family so much, and he just has such a special place.
If no one else is here to talk, I would like to say one more thing. So, I know my son made a lot of mistakes, but I think that's just our kids trying to figure out who they are. And I want to say so many things to Evan, because she guided me through this, because I had to do it alone without his father and without Zake's father. And you guys are a beautiful family, and I want to thank you so much, and thank you guys for loving my son as much as you guys did, because I know you cared so much about him. I know you guys all did, David, and Scott, Amy, everybody. But what I'm really proud of is I know my son was getting it together, because I'm gonna admit the truth. I would be like, Cash, just stay home with me, hang out with me, don't go to school, let's like watch movies. He's like, no ma, I gotta go to school. And he'd go get ready, listening to his stupid rap. And I couldn't stand his rap, but I loved listening to him rap, because I could hear him. But as he walked out that door, I got to say, for the last 3 weeks of his life, I'm proud of you, kid, and I love you. Hurry your ass home. So thank you so much for loving that kid as much as I did. He was amazing. Thank you so much. You guys, thank you. Really? Thank you. Thank you, guys.
It's really nice that we can all be here. We don't have to turn this off. We don't have to stay formal like this with this food. And maybe we gather, maybe we just leave the microphone. We can, if somebody decides they want to say something, we can just turn it back up and then bring it back down, and we can be together here, right? And then maybe talk together and then see what comes up. So leave some food, and we'll just stick around in here for a bit.
Just real quick, mostly to the younger generation, Cash has planted the seed for you guys. Know that you guys have support. If you guys are going through something or a choice that you're going to make, just understand that choices come with a consequence, whether it's good or bad. You know, I also have 5 kids, so, sorry. And, you know, there's a way out. You guys can reach out to the staff here. If you're not residents here, reach out to your counselors at school, because, you know, just that quick, even adults will get sunk under, you know, and we don't want that to happen to none of you guys. So remember that he left a legacy, he planted the seed, and it's your choice, you know, to make a decision for yourself in your future. Stay in school, get your education, go to college, and have a good life. Thank you guys.
That was a good idea.
Sorry. Here at this memorial service about our friend Cash, Michael Walker, because he was an awesome kid, and I'm coming away from this experience with a lot of questions about why someone so young passed away so soon, and how in 2025 a seemingly healthy 14-year-old child can die 4 minutes away from a children's hospital of an asthma attack. So I've been struggling with this particular loss quite a bit. And I'm not a hugely religious person, but I'm not even like a smally religious person, but I did kind of root around and try to look for some meaning in this death. And while I was doing that, I found this sermon online that kind of really spoke to me. And even though it wasn't applicable in this particular situation, I've adapted it a little bit. So let's hope that James Weldon Johnson doesn't get too offended by that. And I'd like to read that today because it's brought me some comfort, and I hope that it will bring someone else some comfort as well. This is called Go Down Death, and again, it's by James Weldon Johnson. And here we go. Weep not, he is not dead. He's resting in the bosom of Jesus. Heartbroken mother, weep no more. Grief-stricken sister, weep no more. Left lonesome friends, weep no more. He's only just gone home. Day before yesterday morning, God was looking down from his great high heaven, looking down on all his children, and his eye fell on Cash, struggling to breathe. And God's big heart was touched with pity, with everlasting pity. And God sat back on his throne, and he commanded that tall, bright angel standing at his right hand, "Call me Death." And that tall, bright angel cried in a voice that broke like a clap of thunder, "Call Death! Call Death!" And the echo sounded down the streets of heaven till it reached away back to that shadowy place where Death waits with his pale white horses. And Death heard the summons, and he leaped on his fastest horse, pale as a sheet in the moonlight. Up the golden street Death galloped, and the hooves of his horses struck fire from the gold, but they didn't make no sound. Up Death rode to the great white throne and waited for God's command. And God said, "Go down, Death. Go down to Seattle, Washington, down in King County, and find Cash Michael Walker. He's borne the burden and heat of the day. He's labored in my vineyard, and he's ready. Go down, Death, and bring him to me." And Death didn't say a word, but he loosened the reins on his pale white horse, and he clamped the spurs to his bloodless sides, and out and down he rode, through heaven's pearly gates, past suns and moons and stars. On Death rode, leaving the lightning's flash behind. Straight down he came. While they were watching around his bed, he turned and looked away. He saw what they couldn't see. He saw Old Death. He saw Old Death coming like a falling star. But Death didn't frighten Cash. He looked to him like a welcome friend, and he whispered, "I'm going home." And he smiled and closed his eyes. And Death took him up like a baby, and he lay in his icy arms. But he didn't feel no chill, and Death began to ride again, up beyond the evening star, into the glittering light of glory, onto the great white throne. And there he laid Cash on the loving breast of Jesus. And Jesus took his own hand and wiped away his tears, and he smoothed the furrows from his face. And the angels sang a little song, and Jesus rocked him in his arms and kept saying, take your rest, take your rest. Weep not, he is not dead, he's resting on the bosom of Jesus." So hopefully that will bring someone else some comfort. Thanks.